I never told a soul. Not my friends, not my fiancé, not even the people who thought they knew me best, that I bring in nearly $1 million every single month. To the world, I'm just Arya Vale, a quiet girl who keeps to herself. But behind the facade, behind every polite smile and carefully chosen lie, sits a life built on precision, secrecy, and more money than I ever imagined I'd touch. At 29, I was already the elusive mind behind V Data Systems, a tech firm that rebuilt how corporations processed information across Eastern Europe. Oil chains, investment boards, cybersecurity agencies, everyone wanted my algorithms. They came to me whispering, "Genius, prodigy, the girl who sees patterns in chaos." But I didn't let any of them into my world, not truly. My penthouse in the heart of Moscow was a shrine of quiet steel elegance. Polished concrete floors, frost-tinted windows stretching from floor to ceiling. At night, the whole city glowed below me like a sea of neon stars, and I'd read until dawn, first editions of authors long gone, their cracked leather spines lined in rows. In a glass frame sat the only softness I'd kept, a tiny photograph of my mother standing in a wildflower meadow, her tired smile still somehow bright. Everything else in the place was cold, clean, controlled. Behind a hidden panel, a reinforced vault held the real heartbeat of my empire. Contracts, drives, access keys, prototypes. My income pulsed behind that steel door, and no one knew. Not the childhood neighbors who still mailed me crocheted mittens every winter. Not the classmates who assumed I'd burned out and fallen off the academic map. Not even Nico Hale, my fiancé of 14 months. Nico believed I was a freelance designer pulling together barely enough to stay afloat. He loved my supposed simplicity, my down-to-earth nature. It was a role I learned to play like a second skin. Off-brand shoes hiding Italian leather soles, cheap scarves covering silk, a beat-up phone case wrapped around a device worth more than a car. Even the apartment he'd visited, my place, was just a decoy I rented to keep my cover airtight. We were planning a wedding, a future, a life. But before any of that could become real, he wanted me to meet his family in the small town of Carswood, 2 hours from Moscow, and that was where my dangerous little game began. I told him, with a smile that hid too much, "Why don't I show up as a simple country girl? Let's have a little fun with it." He laughed. I laughed. Only I knew the stakes. But I didn't know then, stepping into his family's world, how fast my lies would unravel or how my past was already waiting for me there. What happens when Arya enters the Hale household and recognizes a face she thought she'd never see again? The train ride to Carswood cut through frozen fields like a silver needle stitching winter to the horizon. Frost clung to the windows, blurring the world outside into ghostly silhouettes of birch trees, narrow roads, and small towns huddling beneath the weight of snow. Nico sat beside me, his fingers laced with mine, warm and steady. Steady enough to make me wonder if he'd still hold them once the truth eventually surfaced. He talked about his childhood the way people describe old movies, a little grainy, a little fond, but not without shadows. His mother, Ariana Hale, ran the household with the kind of firm love carved from years of getting by. "She's tough," he said with a soft smile, "but she'll warm up to you." His father, Samuel, was quieter, reserved like someone who'd learned that silence could sometimes protect more than words. And then there was his younger sister, Leah, a wild spirit who lived in paint-splattered sweaters and moods that switched colors as easily as her canvases. I nodded, pretending calm. But underneath the wool scarf wrapped around my throat, my pulse beat hard. My carefully woven identity, country-born, humble, simple, sat on my shoulders like a costume stitched too tight. My real history was nothing like the fairy tale I'd crafted. The truth was messy, brutal. A childhood in a collapsing village house with a leaking roof and a mother who coughed into her apron until the fabric stained red. A father who walked out one night with a promise to fix things and never returned. A life built from grit and numbers and sleepless nights staring at screens until my eyes burned. The lie was easier, cleaner. A girl who taught art classes to village kids and painted sunsets when she got lonely. The train hissed to a stop, pulling into a small platform dusted in snow. The cold slapped my face the moment we stepped out. Carswood smelled of wood smoke, old chimneys, and distant pine. It felt like stepping backwards in time, quiet, still, untouched by the chaos of Moscow's skyline. Nico squeezed my hand. "You'll love my mom's cooking. She makes this stew everyone swears could cure anything except heartbreak." I forced a smile. Maybe I need that. We walked the short path toward his family home, a weathered two-story wooden house with a slanted porch and lights glowing behind frosted windows. Warm, inviting, yet something in the air felt off. A pressure, a heaviness I couldn't place. Ariana opened the door before we knocked, her eyes sharp, like she was already dissecting me. Samuel gave a curt nod. "Leah?" She hugged me instantly, leaving a streak of teal paint across my sleeve. Stepping inside, I inhaled stew, bread, wood smoke, and something else. Something secret. But the moment Ariana sits at the Hale family table, she notices a photo on the mantel. A face she knows too well. Who is it? And why is it here? The Ivanov home woke before dawn, the pale winter light slipping through thin curtains and painting the kitchen in muted blue. Anna barely slept, her thoughts twisted around Irina's suspicions, Lena's nervous energy, and the strange knots of tension that pulsed through the house like an unseen current. She'd faced hostile investors with calm precision, but here, surrounded by family photos, hand-stitched tablecloths, and the faint scent of old pine, she felt like an imposter wearing clothes that didn't fit. Irina was already at the stove, stirring a pot of oatmeal with the kind of focus most people reserved for high-stakes negotiations. Her silver bun looked tighter than the night before, as if she'd wound it that way to keep her emotions from spilling out. "Morning," Anna said, her voice careful. Irina didn't turn. "People who wake early usually have nothing to hide." The words landed soft, yet sharp enough to leave a sting. Anna forced a smile and reached for a cup, though her fingers trembled slightly. Nikita entered moments later, hair mussed, eyes warm. He kissed his mother's cheek, then glanced toward Anna with a reassuring smile. But she sensed the questions behind his gaze, questions she wasn't ready to answer. The family gathered around the breakfast table. Sergei silent behind his newspaper, Lena doodling abstract shapes on a napkin, Nikita nudging the milk jug toward Anna with a soft grin, and Irina presiding over it all like a stern matriarch guarding ancient secrets. To ease the mood, Anna told a small story about village life, one she fabricated with enough truth to sound real. But Irina watched her too closely. Every detail Anna offered felt weighed, measured, and filed away in the old woman's mind. Then, mid-meal, a dull thump echoed from outside. A car door. Everyone paused. Sergei stiffened. Irina's hand froze around her spoon. Lena's pencil dropped from her fingers. Nikita, oblivious to the invisible chain that seemed to yank his family upright, started to rise. "Probably the neighbors." "No," Irina said sharply. Her voice sliced through the room. She stood, wiping her hands on a rag, steadying herself like a soldier preparing for battle. Anna's heartbeat kicked into overdrive. something was wrong, deeply wrong. This wasn't just family history or old heartbreak. There was fear in Irina's stillness, a bracing kind of fear Anna had seen only once before, the night her mother told her they were leaving Suzdal because staying isn't safe anymore. Another thump. A shadow passed the frosted window. Anna's mind snapped into analytical mode, mapping possibilities, danger points, escape routes, almost reflexively. Irina whispered, barely audible, "He's early." Anna froze. Who? Her father? Someone worse? Before she could ask, Lena swallowed hard and whispered, "He wasn't supposed to find the house this soon." But when Anna stepped toward the window to see who had arrived, she didn't expect the face staring back, nor the message he had come to deliver. Anna inched toward the frosted window, her breath shallow, her pulse loud enough that she wondered if the others could hear it. The glass was clouded with condensation, but the silhouette outside was unmistakably human. Broad shoulders, a heavy coat dusted with snow, and a posture that radiated certainty, not hesitation. Not a lost traveler, not a neighbor, someone who knew exactly where he was going. When she brushed the sleeve of her wool dress against the glass to clear it, the figure lifted his chin, and Anna stumbled backward. It wasn't Mikhail. It was a stranger, a man in a military-style coat with sharp eyes and a scar that slashed across his cheek like a pale lightning bolt. He tapped the window once, with a gloved finger, slow and deliberate, as if to say he knew someone inside was watching. Irina stiffened. Sergei's chair scraped loudly against the wooden floor as he stood, jaw clenched. Liana pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Nikita looked between them all, utterly lost. Who is that? Why does everyone look like they've seen a ghost? Irina finally whispered, "His name is Orakov." The name hung in the air like smoke. Sergei moved to the front door, blocking it with his body. "He's here for the letters, or for her." His chin jerked subtly toward Anna. Anna's chest tightened. "Me? I've never seen him before." Irina turned to her slowly, her eyes full of a sadness that seemed decades old. "You may not know him, Anna, but he knows your father. And whatever trouble Mikhail created, Orakov cleaned it up, for a price." A cold wave coursed through her. She'd known her father had tangled himself with dangerous people, but she'd never imagined the consequences would follow her here, to a quiet home with gingham curtains and the scent of cinnamon lingering in the air. The knock came. 3 firm thuds that vibrated through the walls. Sergei flinched. Liana whimpered. Nikita frowned, still confused but finally sensing the gravity. He placed a protective hand on Anna's shoulder, though his pulse was racing as fast as hers. Irina moved toward the table, unfastening the chain around her neck. From it hung a small key, the one Anna had noticed the first night. Without a word, she set it down with a metallic clink. "The cabinet," she said. "Orakov wants what's inside. So did Mikhail." Anna's eyes widened. "What's in there?" Irina hesitated. Proof of debts, betrayals, and alliances that never should have existed. Your father wasn't just running from criminals. He was part of them. Another knock, louder this time. Sergei whispered, "We can't keep him outside much longer." Anna's instincts, honed from years of navigating hostile negotiations, kicked in. "Open the cabinet," she urged. "Let me see what we're dealing with." Irina looked at her for a long moment. Then, with a resigned sigh, she picked up the key and moved toward the locked cabinet in the living room. But before she could insert the key, a voice echoed through the door, deep and icy. "Anya Vulova, open up. I know you're in there." And when the cabinet finally opened, what Anna found inside didn't just expose her father. It tied her fate to Orakov's in a way she never imagined. Irina's hands trembled as she slid the small brass key into the cabinet lock. The click echoed through the tense, silent room like a gunshot. Outside, Orakov's silhouette remained still as a statue, a dark blot against the swirling snow. Anna stood a few feet back, every muscle taut. Her mind mapped possibilities like branching code, blackmail, hidden debts, incriminating contracts. Anything that might explain why a man like Orakov had tracked her father across years and miles. But nothing prepared her for the cabinet's contents. Inside were not just letters. There were photos, stacks of them, stiff, glossy prints held together with rubber bands stretched thin from age. Irina lifted one bundle with a hesitant hand and passed it to Anna. The top image made her throat constrict. Her father, much younger, sharper, more alive, stood beside Orakov in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Crates behind them stamped with Cyrillic codes. Money changed hands. Men lingered in the background, armed, faces hard. Not just business deals. Smuggling, weapons, black market logistics. A web of crimes that stretched far deeper than bad debts. But the second photo hit harder. A snapshot of Mikhail holding a newborn. A baby with a tuft of dark hair. A baby wrapped in the same type of knitted blanket Elena, Anna's mother, used to make. Irina's voice cracked. That child is not you. Anna stared at the image, her mouth falling open. What? Irina swallowed hard. Before Mikhail met your mother, he lived 2 lives, one with me, one with that world. She nodded at the photos. I didn't know about the other woman, or the baby. He hid it from all of us. Lena stepped closer, her voice soft but strained. Mama, why didn't you ever tell me? Irina closed her eyes, emotion carved into every line of her face. Because some truths poison everything they touch. Anna felt the room tilt, reality tilting under her feet. Her father hadn't just abandoned one family, he'd abandoned multiple. His betrayals weren't accidental, they were patterned, deliberate. But then Lena tapped another envelope tucked in the corner of the cabinet. This one has your name on it, she whispered, handing it to Anna. The envelope was thin, the paper yellowed and fragile. Inside, Anna found a short handwritten note in her father's unmistakable script. If anything happens, the girl will inherit more than money. She'll inherit the code. Anna frowned. What code? Irina exhaled sharply. He means access. Her voice shook. Your father didn't just run investments. He built encryption networks for criminals. If Orakov thinks you have the master key... A third knock struck the door, this time sharp enough to rattle the hinges. Anya. Orakov's voice cut through the walls like a blade. We need to talk. Open the door, or I come in my way. Nikita grabbed Anna's arm, fear flashing across his face. We need to hide, now. But Anna didn't move. Her father's note burned in her hand. If she really had inherited something dangerous, something Orakov wanted, running wouldn't help. And when Anna finally decided to confront Orakov, she realized the truth. He didn't just want the code. He believed she was the only one who can unlock what Mikhail left behind. Orakov didn't wait for permission. The front door shuddered beneath a brutal shove, the old hinges groaning, snow swirling in from the cracks like ghostly fingers. Sergei braced his shoulder against the wood, but the force on the other side was relentless. Move, Irina hissed, grabbing his coat. You'll only get yourself killed." Sergei stepped back reluctantly, jaw clenched, shame flickering in his eyes. Anna felt heat rise under her skin. Fear, anger, confusion, all knotted together. Her father had dragged them all into a nightmare none of them had asked for. But before the door could burst inward, Irina strode toward it and snapped, "Enough!" Everything froze. Even Orakov. Her voice carried the weight of someone who'd survived storms far darker than this one. Irina cracked the door open just an inch, just enough for snowflakes to drift in and cling to her lashes. "You don't step into my home with threats," she said sharply. "State your business." Orakov leaned forward, his scar catching the dim hallway light. His breath fogged the air between them. "My business," he growled, "is with her." He didn't need to point. Everyone knew. Anna stepped forward, despite Nikita's hand closing around her wrist. "It's okay," she murmured to him. "I'm done hiding." Orakov watched her approach with a strange intensity, not rage, something colder, calculated. "You look like him. Same stubborn eyes." Anna didn't flinch. "What do you want from me?" His gaze flicked past her to the room behind. "The code your father built. The one he swore only blood could unlock." Irina stiffened. "You're lying. Mikhail never would have—" "Oh, he would," Orakov smirked bitterly. "He gave me half the encryption, promised the rest once his debts were cleared. Only he died owing more than he could repay." He stepped forward, boots crunching on the snow-littered threshold. "So now, you owe." Anna crossed her arms, ignoring the tremble in her hands. "I don't even know what the code is." "You will," Orakov replied ominously. "Your father hid it in something only you can decipher, his inheritance." Lena gasped softly. Nikita paled. Sergei muttered something under his breath about devils wearing human faces. But Orakov wasn't finished. "You think I want money?" He shook his head no. "I want the system Mikhail created, the network, the access. Whoever controls it controls the flow of a very specific kind of intelligence." Anna's pulse hammered. Intelligence, information, data pipelines. Her field. He was talking about a system her father created that rivaled modern corporate encryption, maybe even government-level security. A system she might be able to unlock. Irina stepped in front of her protectively. "You won't use her like you used him." Orakov's expression hardened. "I don't need to use her. She'll help willingly once she learns what happens if she refuses." The threat hung heavy in the air. But then he added quietly, almost regretfully, "Because your father didn't just leave you a code, Anya." His eyes softened in a way that didn't match his rough exterior. "He left you a target." And when Orakov revealed exactly who was hunting her and why, it shattered everything Anna thought she knew about her father and herself. The wind outside wailed against the house, rattling the shutters like warning drums. Inside, silence fell, thick, suffocating, as if the entire room were holding its breath. Anna stared at Orakov, her pulse thudding painfully in her ears. "A target?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Orakov nodded once. "Your father didn't just anger criminals. He betrayed an entire syndicate, a very old one, very patient. They don't forget, and they don't forgive." Irina's face went ashen. Sergei muttered a curse under his breath. Liena inched closer to the staircase as if expecting danger to burst through the walls at any second. Nikita tightened his grip on Anna's hand. "Why her?" he demanded, eyes blazing. "Because bloodlines matter," Arkhov replied simply. "To them, lineage is leverage," and his face turned to Anna. "And you're the last remaining thread they need to pull." Anna swallowed hard, her mind racing. If that's true, why aren't you with them? Why come alone? For the first time, Orikov looked conflicted. "I owed your father," he said quietly. "Once. Long ago. Before he became what he became." His voice dropped. "And I owe Irina." Irina stiffened. "You owe me nothing." "That's not how debts work," he replied. Sergei stepped forward, fists clenched. "Stop circling the truth like a vulture. Say it straight." Orikov sighed, the breath fogging in the cold air. "The syndicate thinks the code has already been unlocked. They think Mikhail passed it on." He paused. "They're coming. Tonight. Maybe tomorrow. But they won't stop." A chill swept through Anna that had nothing to do with the snow. Irina whispered, "How many?" "Enough that this house won't stand 10 minutes if they find what they're looking for." Leanna's hands flew to her mouth. "We have to leave!" "No," Orikov said sharply. "If you run, you'll lead them right to her." Anna forced herself to steady her breath. "Why do you believe I can unlock this code?" His stare sharpened. "Because your father built it using something only you inherited." "My intelligence?" she guessed bitterly. "No," he shook his head. "Your pattern recognition. Your instinct. Your ability to find meaning where others see noise. Mikhail talked about it constantly. He said he built the encryption around your mind." Irina gasped. Liena stumbled backward against the wall. Sergei murmured something like a prayer. Anna felt the world tilt. "My mind?" "Yes," Orikov said. "He designed a system that only someone who thinks exactly like you, someone shaped by him, could crack." Nikita stepped in front of her, furious. "And what happens if she refuses?" Orikov didn't blink. "They'll kill everyone in this house until she agrees." A beat of stunned silence. Then he added, voice iron hard, "And when the first sign of the syndicate appeared in the snow, an engine's growl in the distance, Anna realized time had already run out." The distant growl of an engine sliced through the night like a blade. Not the soft hum of a neighbor's car, not the chugging of a farm truck. This sound was heavier, predatory, like a metal beast crawling across the frozen earth. Everyone in the room went still. Lena's paint-stained fingers curled around the banister. Sergei turned off the lamp with a sharp flick. Irina drew the curtains shut with trembling hands, as if fabric alone could hold back whatever was coming. Orikov's jaw tightened. "They're early." Anna's blood ran cold. "How many?" "One vehicle," Orikov muttered, stepping toward the window. "A scout. They're checking the perimeter." His posture tensed. "If we're lucky, they don't know she's here yet." "And if we're not?" Nikita asked. Orikov didn't answer. The engine cut off abruptly, leaving a suffocating silence. Then, the crunch of boots on snow. Slow, methodical, calculated. Whoever approached wasn't in a rush. They were confident. Hunting confident. Anna drew a shaky breath, stepping closer to the window despite Nikita's attempt to pull her back. She needed to see. Through a thin slit in the curtains, she glimpsed a hulking figure in a long coat, scarf wrapped high, face shadowed. Snow clung to him like dust on a corpse. He carried something metallic in his right hand. A long, polished crowbar? A firearm? She couldn't tell. He paused at the front gate, surveying the house with eerie stillness. "Someone has to distract him," Lena whispered, voice cracking. "We can't just stand here waiting." Irina snapped, "You're not going anywhere." Orikov turned toward Anna. "Do you trust me?" Her throat tightened. "Should I?" He didn't blink. "If you want to live, yes." Nikita moved between them. "You're not taking her anywhere." "There isn't time for jealousy," Orikov said bluntly. "Your father built this mess. She is the only one who can dismantle it. They're not here for any of you. They're here for her." Anna lifted her chin, finding a flicker of strength where fear had been clawing. "What do they want with the code? Money? Power? Influence. The ability to blackmail governments, corporations, intelligence networks. Your father created a system that sees everything, and these people want eyes everywhere." Anna pressed a hand to her chest. "But I don't even know how to access it." "You will," Orikov said, "because hiding inside that cabinet, behind the photos, is something your father prepared for you. A fail-safe, your piece of the puzzle." Before they could open the final compartment, a sharp metallic clink echoed outside. The gate latch. Someone was entering the yard. Orikov swore under his breath. "Lights off, no movement. If he sees shadows, we're finished." The family scattered, pressing into corners, hearts hammering. Anna crouched beside Nikita, her fingers digging into his sleeve. The footsteps slowed, then stopped. Right outside the front door. A low male voice drifted through the wood, smooth, cold, and terrifyingly calm. "Anya Volova, we know you're inside." And when the intruders finally stepped out of the shadows, Anna realized the man leading them wasn't a stranger at all. He was someone tied to her past in a way far more dangerous than Mikhail had ever been. The storm outside slammed against the Ivanov house like a fist, rattling the window frames and making the old floorboards groan under the pressure. Inside, every person in the cramped living room sat frozen, staring at the front door that Mikhail had disappeared through just moments ago. His footsteps had barely faded before the silence cracked open, heavy and suffocating. Anna felt her pulse hammering in her throat. The room smelled faintly of burnt tea and old wood polish, but beneath that was something sharper: fear. Irina stood stiffly by the fireplace, clutching the empty chain that once held the locket as if it were a lifeline. Sergei hovered behind her, his large hands shaking just slightly, thumb flicking the edge of his old lighter again and again like a nervous tick. Lena sat on the couch, face buried in her palms, her paint-stained fingers trembling. And Nikita, he stood across the room, staring at Anna as though trying to piece together every version of her he'd known. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry," she whispered, the words tasting like metal on her tongue. Nikita exhaled slowly, his voice softer than she expected. "You should have trusted me, Anya." He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes flicking from her to the front door where her father had stood moments ago. "I didn't care about your money. I cared about you." Anna's chest ached. "I know. I didn't want to become someone you tolerated because I could afford things. I didn't want wealth to be a shadow hanging over us." Before either could say more, Irina cleared her throat, a sharp, brittle sound. "You didn't deserve what he put you through," she said to Anna, surprising everyone. Her voice wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either, more like a weathered bridge trying to hold weight again. Anna blinked. You were engaged to him? Irina nodded, eyes clouding over with memories she'd buried deep. Long ago, before he ran to your mother, before he ran from everyone. Her jaw tightened. But you're nothing like him, Anya. The room fell still. Then Sergei spoke, voice heavy but sincere. Those letters, the ones he tried to take, they were proof of what he'd done, proof of the kind of man he is. We kept them to protect ourselves, and maybe to protect you too, if fate ever brought you back into our world. Anna looked at Lena, who wiped her eyes, cheeks streaked with dried blue paint. I'm sorry, Lena whispered. I didn't know he'd follow me here. Anna shook her head gently. You were just looking for answers. Nikita stepped closer to Anna and took her hands in his. He said, voice quiet but steady, We'll figure this out together. For the first time since arriving, Anna believed him. But just as calm began to settle, a sharp noise cut through the storm. A car door slammed outside, then another. Headlights swept across the frosted window, stopping directly in front of the house. Someone else had arrived. But who stepped out of that car, and why did Irina suddenly whisper, "Not them, not tonight," would change everything.